Okay, the first thing we're going to do in getting our hands wet in a little bit of synthesis is we're going to create a software instrument track, and we're going to put retro synth as the instrument. Okay? How do we do that? Well, we've created our track already. We've created a new track right here. And I'm just going to call it synth, so the name's a little shorter. I'm going to shorten this a little bit so I have some more real estate on the screen. Okay? And then when you click on the track and you click the I, right, for inspector, over here on the left you're going to see the channel strip. Okay? That channel strip is showing you two things. The first is the channel you've selected. The second is the master. The main thing you would do on those is control the volume, right? If you want to turn down the volume of everything in your mix, you could just grab this guy. And if you want to turn down the volume of just the track you're on, you would grab this one right here. Okay? You need to be comfortable with this. And if you have a track, you have to make sure that the track you're on is the one you want to see over there, right? So your track has to be highlighted that light gray. When we come over here on the track and we've created, we'll see right here a thing. These are called plugins on that track. Okay. Anywhere you see that kind of blue box there, and there's some different ones we could put in, but the one we're going to focus on is the one right here that is the input to the track. Now, unfortunately, in Logic, they don't put the input at the top of the channel strip. The input is quite a ways down the channel strip. It's not very logical there. So you have to look for it. And we see right here, this one is called an electric piano. And that is the software instrument that's playing on that track. We want to change that. So let's all do that. We're going to change that by clicking on the right here. And we're going to go down to Retro Synth Stereo. And we're just going to put that on that track. And this Retro Synth is going to pop up. Okay. We're going to close that for right now, because we want to do some other things with it. But we've got Retro Synth there. We're going to come over now and we're going to set the tempo to the song to be at 40. So I'm just going to double click on the tempo and put in 40. Okay, and then I'm going to come back here and under the Retro Synth, you see that it says Audio Effects. I'm going to put in an effects plugin. Okay, and this is something that will operate on the signal after the Retro Synth is in place. I do that by clicking on the right-hand side here. There's these little triangles on the right. Click there, and I'm going to go down to Utility, Test Oscillator, Stereo. And you should hear that. Okay? That's a 1 kilohertz sine wave. Okay? If you want to mute your computer, you can. As in, highly suggested that you mute your computer so you don't hear that sound. Okay? Okay? So just to show that one more time, because it's a little bit of a step, you go to the first audio effect track here. You're going to click on the right-hand side, and you go down and select Utility, Test Oscillator, Stereo. Okay. You should see it, and you should hear a sound right there. Then just below it, I'm going to click, and it's awkward. They don't make it real obvious, but right there, this little shaded area, if you click there, you can add a second plugin. Okay? So I'm going to go in, and I'm going to go down to EQ, and I'm going to add a channel EQ after that. Okay? And my channel EQ, because it's after that, the oscillator, is now going to show that 1 kilohertz wave being produced. Okay? Now I can change the frequency of that by moving this dial, and you'll see, and I'll play it for you. I can move that around, and correspondingly in the equalizer, I'll go ahead and mute that. In the equalizer, you can see that frequency changing. So when I put in, if I put in 2,000 hertz, it'll be right here at 2K. See if you can do that, and when you're at that point, put your flag up on your computer, and I'll know you're there. And I'm going to walk around and see how people are doing. So we're going to go to the test oscillator and set the square wave, the waveform to a square wave. Okay. So I'm looking at my graphic EQ here. And I'm going to click this square wave right here. Watch what happens. Ooh. I'm going to change the frequency down a little bit. There's all these other frequencies above it. In fact, if I set it right at 100, I can see that a square wave gives me 100, gives me 300, and then goes up by, I think, by 250 each time. No, by 200 each time. So 500, 700, 900, 1100. Okay, it's putting in the odd number of harmonics over the top. It sounds like this, as opposed to this. There's just the 100 hertz. Here it is with the square wave. It sounds quite a bit louder, doesn't it? And that's because it's adding all those overtones. Okay, adding all those overtones. Go ahead and pick that square wave, and then what I'd like you to do, you could pick pretty much any frequency you want, although I'd suggest something around 100, 200. Now we're going to go over to this EQ, and we're going to turn on the filter. Here's what happened last class. All these buttons up here, turn them all off, meaning if you click on them so they're not any color. They're all neutral color, but turn on the filter, which is the top one, so that it's magenta like this. Okay? And then I'm going to turn my volume down. I'm going to just grab this little pink or magenta dot here. And drag it around. And make it a little bit. See if you can do that, and you can get that going. And see if you can have your computer looking something like that. And if you do, put your flag down so I know it. Okay. So we're going to get rid of the test oscillator, and we're going to turn off the high cut filter in the EQ. So right here, I can just click on test oscillator, no plugin, and I can go to this high cut filter right here and just turn off the filter on the top right. So there's no magenta showing. We're going to use this EQ more. I want you to keep it there, but we don't want it to interfere with what we're doing. And then I'm going to go up to retro synth here. No, I'm not. We're going to actually create some notes first. Okay, create some notes first. So we're going to create a half bar region on this track, and we're going to loop it, and we're going to insert 8 16th notes in a row right here, and then we're going to listen to it on retro synth. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to hold down my command key for. I'm going to create a half bar loop. I'm going to loop that half bar. I'm going to double click on that loop. I'm going to open it. And I'm going to start right here on E2, which is right here. And I'm going to put in 16th notes starting there. And then I'm going to go in D3. Oh, C3. And I'm going to play it back. Whoops. No, it's D there. That's great. I did it backwards. And when you get to that point, go ahead and put your flag up for me. Okay? So we're going to change some of those patches, and then also what I'd like you to do is be able to EQ some of that. And look at how that works through a filter. So if I've got this glitter pad happening here, I can open that channel EQ again right here. Double click in the middle, and I can see, I could turn that filter on, and I could do this. Okay, and I can pick a different patch. What I'd like you to do as you go through those patches and use that EQ is look at the relationship between those overtones, all those upper frequencies and the fundamental frequency, right? The louder sounds are going to have more frequencies going at once. That's what makes them louder. Okay. Go ahead and do that, and then we'll pause there. I just want to make sure everyone can do that. So if you've got that, will you put your flag down? And there's just a couple people I want to go check on real quick. And we're going to start messing with the oscillator section, which is that first section in the synthesizer in RetroSynth. So if you come over here to RetroSynth, go ahead and select the big, go into Synth Leads, Bright Cycle patch. Okay. And then I want you to do a couple little settings here in the oscillator section right here. We're going to set this wave shape, and you can do this by two ways. You can double click on the number and type in 0. The other thing you could do if it's not at 0 is you can hold down the Option key and click on the dials, and they'll all reset to 0. That's the way I like to do it. You don't have to type anything. Okay. And then we're going to turn off the low pass filter, the chorus, and the glide right here. Okay. And then I'm going to hit play. And what I'm going to observe right now is I'm going to change the oscillator, the original waveform. Remember, certain waveforms will have, no, we haven't talked about that. Certain wave types will have more or less overtones on them. Our voice always has the same amount. Our vocal cords will always sound like our vocal cords do. But in a computer, you can produce different shapes of waves. The most common are the sine wave, which we listen to, and the square wave. But you can also add in other ones like the triangle wave or the sawtooth wave. And here's the simple trick. The more pointy the wave is, the more overtones it has. So if I have a square wave, it doesn't have a lot of overtones. If I move down to a sawtooth, which is sharper, it has more. Oops, sorry. There was a setting I forgot to set. Right here, mix to oscillator 1. You have to bring this mix all the way up. So we're just hearing oscillator 1. So when I put this on a square wave, you'll hear it kind of has a hollow tone to it. And when I pull back to this sharper wave, this sawtooth, it sounds harsher and more nasal. That's because there's more overtones on it. And if I slide this guy here, you'll see it's getting a pointy piece. It's offsetting the square wave, so it's getting some different set of overtones on that too. Okay? You can observe all that in the channel EQ. I can move that oscillator around, and we'll see more and fewer overtones, right? So the starting sound that you start with, the oscillator that you start with, has an effect on your sound. It picks what overtones and how many of them there are going to be. Okay, before you start filtering. Yes?
The dial on the oscillator that goes from square, it's called a pulse wave?
Yes. Can record that? So I'm going to start manipulating the attack, release, and decay and sustain levels here. So I'm going to start play. Oops, can I mute it? That might be a normal sound there. I might want it to come in softer so it's not so harsh at the beginning, right? I can soften it by making the attack take longer. See that? I might want it to release more slowly. Now it starts stepping on its own toes though, right? One sound's going over the other. So if we wanted more of a string sound, we might do something coming in a little softer, right? It almost sounds like it's bowing at that point. If I want a lot of attack, I might do this. I might even do this. Just attack, right? Okay, so I'm creating a percussive sound. I'm creating a string-like pad sound. You can do that. See if you can create kind of an attacky sound where you have a lot in the beginning and nothing afterwards. Like that. And something softer, something that starts slower, ends a little slower. And then just put your flags down when you're at that point. And at the end, go ahead and set your attack, decay, sustain, and release to those numbers right there, because that's what we use when we go to the next one. We're going to go back into the song, and we're going to set the tempo to 165. Okay? And so things are going to start moving by a little bit faster. And I want you to make sure that your EQ filter is off. So if you double-click on EQ here, make sure that this pink guy is not on. Because we have one of those built in here already into the synthesizer. We don't need that external one. And we're going to go ahead and turn on that filter section right here. Turn on that filter section with the little power button right there. And we need to set some of these things to 0 for right now. We don't want to modulate the filter with the computer. We'll do it. So hold down that Option key, click on each one of these wheels. It'll set them all to 0. Okay. And I should be able to hit play now. And I should be able to move this filter around. Does everyone recognize that? we know the album? Oh, good. See, there is hope for our future generations, Bill. So, see if you can do that. Pink Floyd. And just to show you a quick thing here, I can even open the channel EQ and watch that as it's happening, right? So as I move that filter up and down, more high frequencies are showing up there. And you'll see this little triangle here going up. You see that? The idea in that is a filter is when you cut off on a filter, especially an old analog filter, and you cut off those high frequencies, some of the it has a kind of a rebound effect on the frequencies nearby. So right at the cutoff point, it's like a lever almost. Some frequencies get boosted right at that point. It's called the resonance. It'll boost those frequencies, and you'll see here if I turn that way up in my EQ, it almost creates a sine wave right there, right where I'm filtering it. Okay. That creates a different sound. If you have a lot of resonance, it's going to sound a little wetter. If you don't have a lot of resonance and you're just cutting it like that, it's going to sound softer. And when you're done, go ahead and set your cutoff to about what did I say, 0.4, somewhere in there. And then go ahead and put your flags up when you're there. We're going to go into the filter section right here, okay? And we're going to set LFO to 5, which is a little high, okay? And then we're going to set envelope to 0, which it already is. And then we're going to go down to this modulation section, and we're going to turn sync off right here. The other thing you have to do is pull down this slider all the way. And then I know I say set the LFO rate to 2.27, but we're finding in last class that's a little slow. So I'm going to double click here and type in 1 hertz. Okay. And when I hit play now, maybe. I'm going to hear that's changing over time. You hear that? It's changing automatically for me. Here it comes back. What's happening right now is this filter is slowly moving up and down without me having to do anything. It's automatically doing it every second. I guess I'm not quite sure how the seconds are going there. It seems a little slower there a second. Okay. And I can make it even slower, and it can come even slower. If I don't want it to move quite as far, I can turn down the amount of the LFO. Then it doesn't move this as much. If we could see, I wish it had a visual representation of it going up and down. This is sort of like the starting point. Wherever I set this is where it will start from. That's not as extreme there, right? If I turn it up, it'll go really extreme. Really high. And it'll go down really low. Maybe. There it goes. Takes a second, right? Before it goes down. You can even try some of these other patterns. This one should slowly come up and get bright. Oh, I have the, it'll get brighter, and then it'll jump back to being dark. And then right back to dark. Here it comes back up again. It's following this waveform. This is the shape of my low frequency oscillator. It's going to come up and then eventually go down. It's going by that slow. That's how slow that wave's going by. Right here. And then starts back over. It does something weird there. I'm not sure what's going on. See if you can get it to do that. You can try some of the other ones here. It'll start bright and get dark over time. So this is all about modulating the filter using the low frequency oscillator. To get every single note going, I'm going to turn off the LFO. So I'm going to hold down the Option key. Now this low frequency oscillator has nothing to do with the filter. I'm going to now turn the envelope up to 0.5. Right here, okay? And then this thing is now going to be controlling this. So what this says is right away, when this goes up here, have this move to the right. And then have it come back down a little bit, and then have it return all the way to normal at the release section. This right here is going to move up, hold, down. What does that mean? I don't know. Let's see. So right now, I can set my set point. I'll set my set point there. We'll say. Watch what happens if I start to pull this back. It's taking the filter a second to open after I hit the note. Yeah? Just by changing the attack. I can also change how long it stays open. Hear that click at the beginning? I can make it really clicky. This filter is moving with each note very quick, back and forth. Very quick. Now it sounds like a horn, right? I can change the amount. Really do it. Will it go crazy? See if you can do that. See if you can set up so this envelope is affecting, and it's usually the attack you're going to hear on these fast notes. So that envelope or the filter opens more slowly or quickly. Then, of course, once you've done that, you can combine the two, right? You can now have the envelope opening more slowly, like that, and then I can bring the LFO back in. And it will slowly sweep from high to low with each one sweep opening and closing. We're doing both. We're modulating from both the LFO and the envelope. The LFO and the envelope are both modulating this filter. See if you can do that.